Delay is not denial. That's in the Bible. Keep going. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Well, I go home and he says, "Can I call you for breakfast?" I said, "Well, it's late already. I'm going to sleep in. Call me around noon." He called me at 9 a.m. And I said, "Hello." He's like, "Are you ready to go for breakfast?" I said, "No, call me back at noon."
The early bird gets the worm.
Hung up on you.
You did. That didn't faze me.
And then I
had redial.
But I turned the phone off. And I didn't turn it back on until noon.
And at 12:01,
yes, 12:01, it did ring.
I never imagined my journey would inspire people all over the world.
Hello, my name is Nema and I'm from Zambia. So I love the Dear Future Wifey podcast.
For me to see people being so real, so honest, and so true about the real situations in life.
I am Natalie from Belgium, and I would like to say thank you.
I value your content because it is Christ-centered.
You have set a standard in love.
Dear Future Wifey podcast has opened my understanding.
I highly recommend that everyone, whether you're single, you're married, you're divorced, you're widowed, everyone to go follow this podcast.
Continue with me as I discover, uncover, and recover love. I'm Laterra Whitfield, and welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. I'm your host, Laterra Whitfield. Listen, if you haven't subscribed to the Dear Future Wifey podcast channel, what are you waiting for? Stop shacking up with us and subscribe. Today's episode, I have such a dynamic couple, and there's nobody better fit to have on the podcast for this season especially than this dynamic couple. This brother, you've been a fan of his plays for several years, his movies. He's an author. And he is the writer and director of the biggest film out in the world right now. If y'all don't know that film, I don't know where y'all been. That film is called Jingle Jangle. And they say behind every great man is a great woman. But I'm going to say behind this great man is an even greater woman. And this woman, she's his co-producer. She's a producer of theater, film, and television. She's an author. She's a mom. And she's his loving wife. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. My homies, my partners, David E. Talbert and Lyn Sisson-Talbert. How y'all doing, family?
What's up?
Let me tell you something. I have watched y'all throughout the years, and I'm just so excited to introduce y'all to the audience of the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Here on the Dear Future Wifey podcast, we keep it lit, where we live intentionally and transparently. And there's no other couple that I realize or I feel exudes that than the Talberts. And I just love what y'all doing. Y'all are so amazing. So I asked Lyn earlier, what makes y'all so unique as a couple? And what'd you say, Lyn?
I said, there's no better us than us, because we can't be anyone but ourselves, and neither can anyone else. So it's just about us being true to ourselves.
I think that is the epitome. Oftentimes when we show up in relationships, our representatives show up, and we have to authentically be who we are. And when people fall in love with a real, authentic you, then you have a dynamic relationship.
Strictly at the beginning of the relationship. Now, you can't be, but so honest. She came over to my house in Vegas, and she looked into the cabinet, and there was this Captain Crunch cereal and Peter Pan peanut butter. She said, "Oh my God, Captain Crunch is my favorite too." And Peter Pan, I'm like, "Oh, this is perfect. Of course we should be together. I love you. I love you too." And Captain Crunch and peanut butter. Now, that was my boy Bootsy's Captain Crunch cereal and peanut butter. Peter Pan beer, but because I don't eat that stuff, and he was coming over at the house hanging out. But look, if she liked it, I loved it. So it was really good.
I didn't find out until 2 years after we were married, when Bootsy came and stayed with us to hang out for a minute, and he went to the grocery store, and in his grocery bag was a box of Captain Crunch and a jar of Peter Pan peanut butter, and I said,
and sealed the deal. It was too late. The ink was dry. It was done. So sometimes, you gotta do what you got to do to land in big planes. So.
Oh my God, that is so doggone cool. One of the things that I say I admire about y'all is that y'all are not just lovers, but y'all are business partners. And so that's so cool because oftentimes it's hard for people to do business and relationships together. So David Talbert, take me back to how long did it take you to write such a dynamic film as Jingle Jangle?
Believe it or not, I started writing in 1997. With a Broadway musical. And I would come to Lyn, like, I got the music. This is like the best music ever. I was like, you love it? She was like, in the church, when my mother said, that's all right, baby, let the Lord use you. When you can't sing or play the instrument or you forget all the Lord's Prayer, that's all right, baby, the Lord gonna bless you. So that was what Lyn did for me. And so I kept doing that year after year and trying to figure it out and couldn't figure it out. And then our son was born. And I realized it wasn't the music really that was stopping me. It was, I needed to see life through a child's eyes again, and remind me what imagination was like. And once I did that, I became a big kid again, and that's really what 7 years ago. But then, that really started the process of really it becoming into what it is today.
Let me ask you this. How does it feel? How does it feel to create something that is timeless, is revolutionary, and is transcending? I mean, a lot of my friends have watched this movie numerous times. How does that feel?
To be honest, we're still figuring it out, that feeling. It's so new, and we're so grateful. I mean, for David to read the Los Angeles Times and the New York Times and to give these amazing raving reviews and love letters, it's something he'd always dreamed of. And to be in this position to do a project like this and for it to be so well received, it is truly a dream come true. So we're still kind of figuring out what is this? What is this feeling? What's next? But it's been amazing. It's been amazing because it tapped into the kid in us, as David mentioned, and I see that it's tapped into the kid of everyone else. But at the same time, they have taken ownership of it because they are so proud, and it makes us feel really good, and it shows us that everything we were doing, it wasn't in vain. And just like in the movie where it starts off saying, all our lives we waited for this day, the song This Day, that is like the soundtrack to our lives, because all our lives we waited for this day, and it's here. So we're grateful.
I got sores all on my body because I'm still pinching myself. I mean, every day I'm like, are you serious? Wait a second. Are you serious? Pinch? This is real. And it's just really that, and just overwhelmed. Lyn and I have been pushing Boulder up the side of a mountain for 22 years. And even with the plays, they gave us $2 and a ham sandwich and said, make it look like Broadway. And we tried our very best every time. And there's a scripture that said, because you were faithful over few, I'm gonna make you rule over many. And we were faithful over the plays. Anything that we've been given a little, we try to make it a lot. And when it came time now where they gave us a lot, well then, okay, you give us a lot. Oh, okay, we're gonna show you what to do with that. Yeah. And so I'm still just overwhelmed and thankful, grateful, humble.
So David, take me back to the day that you met Lyn. How many years ago was that?
That was in 97. That was on Easter night in 97, 23 years ago. I knew I'd moved to Vegas. I built this house, this bachelor's house. it was laid out. I had speakers in rocks. I had palm trees. Jacuzzi, pool. It was the ultimate. Now, it was Vegas and a bachelor and rich. I had new cars in the 3-car driveway, new Mercedes, new trucks, everything. I was that dude. I was really smelling myself, and it smelled really good. And so if I could have dated myself, I would have. As a matter of fact, I knew her aunts from Chicago. They'd come to see my plays and everything, and I'd known them for years. And they kept saying, when I moved to Vegas, they said, well, you don't know anyone there. You should go over to my sister's house, her mother, and get some food. I never went. And finally, on Easter of '97, she called and said, get your ass over there. She's got 2 daughters. And I said, well, shoot, why didn't you say so? Let me just, I had hair there. Let me fix my hair up. And so I went over that night to her mother's house to drop off some DVDs of plays and T-shirts, and just to and I looked on the wall and I saw the sisters. I said, this is family. This is family. Okay. She said, well, what are you doing for dinner tonight? I said, nothing. She said, well, my son is having dinner, and you come over there and meet the family. I'm like, I'll be right there. So I went and I said, okay. And I went over there that night, and I saw her sister is my age. Lyn's 10 years younger than me. Her sister is my age. So I guess they were trying to hook up me with her sister. That's what they thought. I saw this young thing over there in that corner. And I said, no, wait a second here. And that's when we, started talking at night, and we started hanging out ever since. 23 years later, we got engaged 3 months later. And married a year later.
Hold on. So you got engaged 3 months after meeting her?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They say that a man knows when he knows. And so you knew. How soon did you know that she was the one? Was it the first date, the second date? How soon was it?
3 weeks, I called my boy. I called my boy, Chuck. It was
Chuck West.
3 weeks after we met. And the Tyson fight was the second rematch was about to happen with Tyson and Holyfield. And so that's where they would come to my house to hang out and shenanigans and everything. They're like, yo, get my bed ready, leave the keys in there, give me the code. We gonna get in there, and it's gonna be, you might not want to be there this weekend because it's gonna be on. And I'm like, yo, man, you can't come to my house this weekend. Y'all just find a hotel on the strip. Like, what are you talking about? I said, man, I done met this woman. And he's like, oh. I said, man, her name is Lyn. I said, Chuck, I think I'm gonna have to marry this girl. He's like, how long have you known? I was like, 3 weeks. He's like, married? I know. I said, I think I gotta marry this girl. And that was after 3 weeks I knew.
Lyn, what'd you think after 3 weeks, him knowing that you were the one? Was that odd to you, or were you like, that's a real man?
No, look, I was 22 years old, a junior in college at the time. And my life. And it's funny because I actually had told my mother, I said, my sister, had, she married before them, but she wasn't married yet. There were no grandchildren yet. That's all I know. And I'm the baby. So I remember telling my mother, like, look, don't be tripping if I don't get married. I said, I'm not really trying to conform to other people's, views in society. And I'm going to live my life in motion and what works for me. So don't really be tripping about that. I literally had just probably told her that the week before, because it's not that I was against it. It's just that it wasn't something I was searching for. So many friends searching to get married, searching for their husband, all that, and that just wasn't me. So I just wanted to let it go, let it flow, right? enjoy my life. I, about to be a senior in college.
She was unconsciously searching for me. She just didn't know it.
No.
That's a sign of a good man. I knew it. I saw it in her eyes. She was like searching. I'm searching. I won't admit it. I won't say it. I'll say it, but I'm searching. I'm searching.
No.
And I answered that call.
Amen.
It's like a dog whistle. You hear that high pitch. I heard it. She was searching. She was searching.
When you're not looking, that it happens. It's when you're not looking. So when I met David on Easter, it was very funny. He comes in the house, and we did a potluck that year, and he comes in, and you can see all the women huddling over there in the kitchen with him. And me and my roommate were looking like, what are they doing in there? Picking up his little case and showing his toes to them, and how he has nice feet and all this stuff, and they're just like, it was ridiculous. It was so ridiculous. And
you gotta do what you gotta do, Lateris. I happen to have really, really nice toes. No. And so if that was going to get me where I needed to get to, then I'm going to leave with it. I took my shoes and my socks off.
You're really
it was working.
But so anyway, he came over to me at the end of the evening. We ended up talking. We were listening to some Nat King Cole was playing over the speakers at my brother's home, and he said to me, he goes, what's your favorite version of Nature Boy? And I play the sax and I love jazz and all of that, and so I said, my favorite version is the Nat King Cole version. I love the Nat King Cole version of Nature Boy. He goes, I got a version of Nature Boy you have to hear. You've never heard it. And so then the Machiavelli album had come out that year. And we were talking about the Machiavelli album, and I asked him, have you heard the Machiavelli album? He was like, no. I was like, oh my God. I said, well, you give me the new Nature Boy, and I'll give you the Machiavelli album. We'll swap and you can share, right? And we were like, okay. So that evening, he says, we switched it. I just live close by or whatever. And I said, okay. So we did. We ended up talking the whole night, and that's why I needed a midnight snack of Captain Crunch. And
my favorite cereal.
Yeah, just a lot. Remember that, how you close your eyes for a second because it was so late, and I feel this hand go across my face, and I'm like, I gotta go home. This ain't going down. It ain't like that. It ain't that type of party. So I go home.
Yeah. Keep going.
And
yeah.
So
keep going. Delay is not denial. That's in the Bible. Keep going. I'm sorry. Keep going.
So I go home, and he says, "Can I call you for breakfast?" I said, "Well, it's late already. I'm gonna sleep in. Call me around noon." He called me at 9 a.m. And I said, "Hello." He's like, "Are you ready to go for breakfast?" I said, "No. Call me back at noon."
The early bird gets the worm.
Hung up on you.
You did. That didn't faze me.
And then I
had redial.
But I turned the phone off. And I didn't turn it back on until noon.
And at 12:01,
yes, 12:01 it did ring. And we went out to breakfast and had a good time. And literally 3 months later, he asked me to marry him. And I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't looking for it, but I said, hey, why not? I do believe in moving with things that you feel, especially when you're young. And my dad was asking me, and he said, Lyn, are you sure about this? Is this what you want to do? And I said, the only way I could explain it where he could understand was I said, Daddy, you know that song that Gladys Knight sings, Midnight Train to Georgia? He said, yes. I said, you remember the part when she said, I'd rather live in his world than live without him in mine. And he finished it with me, and he understood. So here we are 22 years later.
22 years later. That is absolutely beautiful. Dave, you said you had redial.
So everybody give you some Captain Crunch and some peanut butter. Brothers, give you some Captain Crunch and peanut butter.
Man, let me tell you something. Especially during this COVID season, a lot of marriages are ending because they just can't deal with the company of each other. A lot of people are finding financial hardships. Was there ever times during y'all marriage where y'all faced a rough time where y'all almost called it quits?
I think we have, it's tough. Marriage can be very difficult sometimes, especially when you're bringing in two full personalities, strong personalities. They say it's 50-50, but it's not. It's 100-100. Mm-hmm. And so we've had our moments because we were both still growing. Mm-hmm.
And we still are growing.
Yeah, we're still growing.
But I think relationships are when you come to the conclusion that you're better together than you are when you would be apart. That the sum total of what you can accomplish together is more than you could accomplish on your own. And that's what keeps you, I think in relationships, you have to have a certain bit of selfishness to say that this person makes me better. And without that person, I wouldn't be the best version of myself. And that's what Lyn has done for me for 22 years and continues to do. She makes me better, and she makes everything.
So answer this, David. When you look at your single self, when you were, as a producer and a writer, and now you see your married self, what did you see different? What dynamic did she add that made you better as a producer, writer, and director?
Well, it's a POV. In film, it's a POV. It's a point of view. And when you're in the midst of it, you don't have a chance to look at yourself move the camera back to see a different point of view. So I only had my perspective of how I saw the world and how the world saw me based on my POV. And when Lyn came along, she had a wider POV, and she said, well, wait a second. This is really how you are in the world. This is really what the world is. This is really how the world sees you. And it changed everything. From the first time she came in my plays, I would cast the same people over and over and over again. And she said to me, are you running a repertory group? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Why do you have the same people? I'm like, because these are the people that are good. She says, they're okay. And I looked at her, this is early in the marriage. I could have, I had to think about this thing.
So this is before we got
married. Yeah, I'm looking at her like thinking about this thing. And she gonna check me like that. But she checked me, she challenged me to, do you want to be the better version of yourself? And that was probably a moment for me and for her, because had I responded differently, that would let her know who this dude was. Oh, he ain't interested in growth. Right. There's a concrete, that dirt is concrete. And so she challenged me at the very beginning, and I'm like, well, I don't think there's anyone better. And she said, well, have you ever held an audition? I'm like, why would I do that? She said, just see what else is out there. So we held our first audition for Mr. Right Now, and the people that I saw, I'm like, I didn't know. I'm like, wow, they can really, I'm like, I didn't know. And she didn't say to me, told you so. You don't know what you're talking about. None of that. She says, you see, you just have to be open. And that really just started the process for me of not only being open about my work, but being open about my life and the kind of people I need to have in it, the kind of people I don't need to have in it anymore. And so she has been and continues to be a shield around me and give me that POV,
You said a shield. That's interesting. Why you choose the word shield? How is he a shield around you?
Because before I met Lyn, you could attack me at all sides, and you could get to me any way you want to. I got daddy issues and mommy issues, so I'm a hot, broken mess of emotional dysfunction. So you could dangle one thing, and get me to react emotionally. People could control me based on my emotions, but with Lyn around, well, she was my go-to always. So then she would give me her perspective on things. So it stopped people from being able to attack me at all sides, because you had to go through Lyn, and you're not getting through Lyn, unless you have the right intention. You're not going to get through Lyn. So therefore, you can't get to me. which then keeps me safe and free to create, to download these ideas, these thoughts without all these shenanigans and people around me attacking my gifts. And so she has been a shield for me and continues to be.
Man,
And
that's
he's an
beautiful.
artist. You know, being an artist, you're easily affected by your surroundings. And so he has to protect his creative space. And it's not like I'm standing there like a guard or anything like that. It's just that I want him to be comfortable in the environment to be able to create. And, you know, I was fortunate to have my father in my life, you know, and my father did not have an easy road at all. So I understood baggage that came with him, even though I wasn't fully aware of it until I was an adult, of my own father's baggage, because he kept that on me. And so to see that I could have compassion and understand that, you know, he needs to know how valuable he is and how talented he is. And the people there should be uplifting him and not tearing him down. Now, challenging someone is different than tearing them down. So we can challenge each other and we can push each other to be better, but it's not about ripping them apart and then trying to build them up again. You know, you got to understand what you're ripping down, because you don't know what's behind it when you pull it down, you know?
Lyn, you said a word. That's a word. That's powerful. That is powerful. You don't know what you're tearing down. You don't know what's behind what you're tearing down.
Right.
Where did that come from?
So, yeah, I'm sorry.
I said, where did that come from? Where did that ideology come from?
Like I said, it comes from, I realize how fortunate I am in my own family and the relationships that I've been able to cultivate, and my closeness with my own mother and father, because that was protection for me, and that made me feel like I could do anything, and that I always had somebody that loved me at the end of the day, no matter what. And having that, I probably take it for granted having it, because David didn't necessarily have it. So when I see other people that don't have that unconditional love, that thing where no matter what, you can always come home. You know what I mean? You can always come home, no matter what. That's something. And I realized that, I understood that, because, you know, it was always preached in my family, it's about your family. And so that's what I wanted to bring to our relationship. That's all I knew. And so I know that that was difficult and challenging at sometimes for him, because it's about a trust. It's about, is this real? Or are they going to attack me at some point? So we have managed a lot of those emotions and feelings, and they rear up because, you know, we're human beings, you know, we're not robots. You wish you could deprogram some of that, but you can't. So we're, at the end of the day, we continue to try to just do the best we can. And we want to put good in the world because we want to receive good. And we realize that sometimes things are just lessons for us when stuff is truly hard and difficult and hurtful and painful. And I've learned a lot, and he's showed me to be a little bit tougher, because I do have an open heart, and it's unfathomable for me that someone would intentionally hurt you. I don't have a concept of that, because that's not who I am. So when it happens, I'm really affected, and David is like, you gotta let that go. You know, sometimes it's just a lesson for you. You know, so we exchange in that way. You know, the things that he's been through teaches me things, and the things that I've been through teaches him things. And so that's kind of the chess that we play with each other.
That is so dope. David, in 2006, you came to my wedding. In 2015, I got a divorce, and in December the 29th of 2015, December 2015, I got a divorce. And I told you about it shortly after. And you jokingly said something that created I'll say a bar in my mind. First of all, you said, listen, you went in and got a divorce. You owe me. You need to reimburse me for my flight. You need to reimburse me for my hotel stay. For my hotel stay. And when and you jokingly said that, but that meant a lot to me. It set a standard for whenever I decide to get married again, which I believe will be soon. But a lot of people are there when you get married, and a lot of people are invested in your marriage, whether they buy you a gift, whether they even invest in spending their time with you. And so when you said that to me, you don't realize how impactful that was to me, because ever since you said that back in 2016, I've thought about that, and I said, I have to be extremely intentional when I choose again taking on a bride and taking on a wife, because there are people who have made investments and spending flights to come see it, or spending money on a hotel room. And then, almost 10 years later, I filed for divorce. And you said that, and that resonated with me. What made you say that? I know you joke about a lot of stuff, but what made you say that?
I think just because marriage has become transactional and disposable.
Yes.
And it's become about a day, on how wonderful you can make this day. But marriage doesn't start on that day. Marriage starts the day after. Marriage is what you do to stay married. Anybody can get married. I think I said that in one place, but anybody can get married. But the real magic is, can you stay married? And it's, for me, it's you. When I look at you as a little brother. And there's so many mistakes that I made in my life, and there's more I will make. I share them with you, just anecdotally and comedically, but sincerely, so that you don't have to make those same mistakes. And I wish, even in my life, and before I got married, that I had. You go to the pastor and they say, well, what y'all need to do is you need to leave and cleave, and you say all that mumbo jumbo. But none of that stuff sticks when it comes time to really have to look at somebody and say, do I really want to stick with you? And but it's just like a marathon runner. I remember when I used to get ready for to play basketball in high school, and we used to have to run the mile in a certain amount of time. And when I first started, I'm like, every time I got that first lap, I'm like, oh, that second lap, oh, that third lap, I would stop. I'm like, I can't do it. And the coach said to me, it gets easier if you keep going, because your body has built up its tolerance, its endurance. But you have to get to that point where you can push past the pain and go into cruise mode. And that's the same thing about relationships. It's just like running that mile. Yeah, it's going to kick your butt going around that first lap. It may kick it around going the second lap and the third lap. But if you get to past that pain, you can get in a certain cruise control where you know what it's going to be. What it's going to take to press through. So that's why I was sharing, with you, because it was a beautiful lady that you married. And it was a beautiful sermon. The chicken was a little tough. The chicken was a little tough, but it's beautiful. Other than that, but what's important is for you as you move forward, brother, is look at Lyn and I and others' example. And it hasn't been easy, and it may continue to have issues, but we know each other.
Yes.
We can push past the pain, and we can continue to run this race because we know where the finish line is. I want to look at this woman, the last breath I breathe. My son, I love that boy. I'm gonna kick him out the room. I'm gonna say to you, I love you, boy. You take this legacy, you take these genes, and you make something good out of yourself. And get out of my room and talk to you. I'm gonna look at her. I'm gonna tell you thank you. I'm gonna look at her, tell her thank you. And that's the finish line. Thank you. It hadn't been perfect, but thank you. And that's what it's about, brother. And I want the same thing for you.
I'm gonna try my best not to cry right now. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. thank you. Thank you for taking the time to pour into me over the years, ever since 2002 when I had my first play. So for, 18 years, you've been a constant friend. I'm a words of affirmation type of dude. And so one of the most impactful things that you ever did was when you dedicated a blog on your website about me and talked about how impactful my play was and the level of talent that I had. And that meant a lot to me because I looked up to you and I was like, this guy, this is what I aspire to be as a writer, as a director. He's next level. And I mean, it was no other playwright. I was like, I used to watch all your plays on VHS. And when you called me, when our mutual friend AK connected us, I was like, this is David Talbert. And I was so excited. I felt like I had made it. I felt like I had arrived when I heard your voice on the other side. And I was like, all right, I'm doing something right. And so I just want to thank you. And Lyn, I thank you for being constant, been a constant friend. Y'all are amazing. And you don't realize the impact that y'all having on people just by y'all being who y'all are. And so I've been gleaning a lot throughout the years. And I'm just proud of y'all. I respect y'all a lot. I love y'all. I adore y'all. And I made up for that little dry chicken with that turkey I sent you, that Greenberg turkey a couple of Christmases ago. You remember that, don't you?
Thank you, Terry. Thank you so much.
Listen,
I love you.
Man, I love y'all too.
Of you. As an artist, as an entrepreneur, businessman, but most importantly, I'm proud of you as a man. That you take time to father children and be there. And that's what I'm most proud of, man. That's what the heavens is smiling down. Anytime you need me, brother, you got it.
I appreciate you. So, listen, y'all give it up before I break down crying all the way to my homies, David and Lyn Talbert. Thank y'all so much for joining me.
Love you.
Love you.
Happy holidays.
Wow. I mean, I have to admit, this episode really touched me in a unique way. I don't know what happened, but I did good. I was about to break down and cry. It was something that happened when David Talbert began to pour into me. It's like I got a glimpse of, the brevity of marriage and the requirement, and it's definitely not to be taken lightly. And so as I continue on this journey, I want y'all to continue joining me on this journey, and let's elevate our thinking and really intentionalize what it is that we desire from our future spouses. We're patient enough to choose wisely so that we can make it till death do us part. That's the goal. # till death do us part. Now, this letter is a very intimate one. Dear future wifey, I'm writing this letter on December the 19th, 2020. 2 years ago on this date, I walked away from a toxic situationship that unfortunately lasted almost 3 years. The pain caused from that heartbreak actually increased your appraisal and makes me value you even more. From a broken heart, purpose was produced. Submission was stabilized. Love was elevated. I refuse for you to inherit shattered pieces. You will be gifted with Lateris 3.0. Trinity Edition, a man reconstructed by God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. My eternal lover, I want you in ways you've never been wanted. I want to serve your heart and anticipate your needs and desires. Our relationship will be effortless. Though I expect rough patches, the rough patches will be delicately woven into our love quilt. Our love quilt of good and bad moments will comfort us as a symbol of our undying love and serve as a testament we can overcome anything. I'm looking forward to the first day of forever. Your future hubby. Thank you for listening to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently, and don't stop loving. Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.